Doctor, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you again, Ed.
It's July 19th, Sunday.
Yep.
Delmar just had, or recently had a board meeting, which you attended.
Yes, I did.
And we noticed in the agenda, they had a section entitled 2012 Write-Offs of Accounts Receivable.
Right.
And that was presented by Dr. Lee Sloan, the Chief Financial Officer.
Yes.
We've talked about his qualifications before.
Right.
And, or his lack of qualifications. I guess no accounting course would be a lack of qualifications
Right.
for a $90 million a year operation. And that's before you get into the fixed assets, which they raised $157 million for recently.
Right.
Or they got it approved. It's not been, the check hasn't been cashed yet. So, Dr. Sloan is writing to Dr. Escamilla, and he says about the board policy of write-offs. They have, for the fiscal year 2012, they're going to write off $192,711.70. The majority of the write-offs, approximately $160,000, are attributed to required financial aid program adjustments. Now, there are real adjustments that he's talking about, and I've looked up the statutes on that, and I'm trying to get the information to calculate or recalculate his $160,000.
Right.
But it looks as if the students drop out and the debt's forgiven.
Mm-hmm. Essentially.
That's the way it looks, because they hadn't completed 60% of their class or something.
Right.
There's some criteria in there. The debt remains on the student record, and no future services can be provided to the student until the debt is cleared. Okay. So, I'm not quite certain if it does appear that they're writing this off. Are they still trying to collect it from the student?
Well, what they've been doing before, Ed, is they would just simply write a single letter to the student stating that if you don't pay this up, then you'll never be able to come back and either register for any more classes, or they think more importantly, you will not be able to get transcripts if you go to another institution, or if you're a potential employer or whatever wants transcripts, then you won't be able to get those from Delmar College.
Okay, and that's where they address the institutional hopping by students at the board meeting,
Right.
where basically the students don't care about their transcripts,
Right.
and they're certainly not going to pay their thousands of dollars in accounts receivables that they're owed. So the college is, at this point, just out this money.
Mm-hmm.
And then, now I was not able to attend the board meeting, but we are getting a DVD of it. However, Dr. Sloan made mention in there about the policy now of if they miss an installment, if the student misses an installment, then they send them to a collection agency.
Right.
Now, you and I looked at thousands of pages of documents for student write-offs, and I didn't see anything related to an installment program.
No, I did not either.
And the only thing...
I'm not real sure what they mean by installment, whether that's one that's set up for their repayment during the semester, or whether that's after they default, if they come in and set up
and that's a good point.
plan.
The way I'm understanding it is a payment plan, but I might be wrong.
Yeah.
So I guess we need to file a PIA
Yes.
and wait our 104 days, or whatever it takes.
Yep. Well, at least 3 good months, maybe 4.
Boy, yeah,
Yeah.
folks have had a little problem with our 10-day PIA letters. They've extended into the 100-day period.
Yeah.
So, and Dr. Sloan has consistently presented this memo to Dr. Escamilla, saying the write-off of receivables, and the last line on there, these accounts have previously been expensed and all collection efforts have been exhausted. Now, let me explain something as an accountant. These are accounts receivable at the point this memo is created.
Right.
That's an asset.
Yeah.
That's on the balance sheet. An expense is on the income statement.
Right.
This is an asset, it's not on the income statement. So, these accounts have previously been expensed, can't be true. It simply can't be true. Now, this next comment, all collection efforts have been exhausted. You and I investigated that very thoroughly.
Mm-hmm.
Their definition of exhausted collection efforts is different from mine.
Yeah, it's a single letter out.
No phone calls, one letter,
Right.
no certified mail,
Okay.
no litigation,
Mhm.
but it's exhausted.
Right. Well, here's something that I wanted to interject, Ed, and I guess I'm blindsiding you with this one.
I'm okay with that.
But we spend a fortune over there with people in our retention administration. In other words, there are people over there that are paid very high salaries, and what their function is to, if a student's got a problem, then they are there to help them stay in school and retain them. Okay? Now, if we've got this kind of debt, that's an awful lot of students that are not being retained. And but my question is why not?
And
Can't you sit down? I mean, I'm sure that it's the same thing I went through when I was in college for years. I mean, I was very fortunate. I finished from the beginning of my bachelor's degree until I graduated with a PhD. I did that in 8 years with a master's degree. And that's pretty damn quick, okay? Usually you've got 6, 7, 8 years from bachelor's to PhD. I did it in 2 weeks shy of 4 years. And it almost killed me. But now, I had a burning desire to do that. And I had good counseling, and I had people behind me, and they said, just keep going, the pain will end one day. But what I can't understand with Del Mar College is if we have this whole crew for retention, then, and I know that students run out of money, folks, the times are tough, and you know, economically, a lot of these people are married with families and so forth and so on, and they just can't afford to continue on. Now, why in the world, rather than lose a bunch of money on write-offs, can't we get our retention people to go sit down and talk to them and say, what is it going to take to keep you here? What is it going to take to have you pay this off maybe and then come back in another semester? And I just don't see anything. Maybe they're doing that, but I just don't see it, Ed.
well, and it does bother me. I'm glad you brought that up. It does bother me that the enrollment's declining,
Yeah.
and it has a steady decline every year for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Enrollment's declining, the budget, the expenditures are going up. We passed a bond issue for $157 million, which some of it's going to this 95 acres down here, right across the street here.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense to me. As your enrollment declines, your demand for buildings shouldn't increase.
No.
So
Yeah.
economically, that does not make any sense to me.
This does not compute, as my computer used to tell me.
And then we've got the second most illiterate city in America, and our ISD, CCISD, is in the bottom 25% of the ISDs in Texas.
Right.
So we clearly need a strong community college, and these
Right.
kids that are going to the community college need to be there and they need to finish. And now we're losing a bunch of money because they're not.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, there's less than 3,000 full-time students out there.
Mhm.
And there's, I think, about 2,000 dual credit students
Right.
that don't even attend the campus.
No, they're not on campus, they're taught elsewhere. And then we've got the some other campuses around.
And there's a lot of vacant rooms in buildings all day long.
We've got the Northwest Center. And that's now building up. Biology just put $185,000 in the anatomical models alone out there. And then they've got new desks, they've got new shelves, and so forth and so on to teach classes out in Cal Allen.
You know, back in college, in the accounting curriculum, you learn cost-benefit analysis.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't sound like any of that's being practiced out there.
I don't think they can spell it.
Boy, but these students need to stay in there. I don't mind paying more taxes if they're going to educate students.
Right.
Right now, we're paying more taxes so we can write off bad debt.
And increase the administrative
And the
ranks.
administrative percentage has gone from the 30-some percentages to the 60-some percentages.
Right, and it's flip-flopped with the instructional.
It sure has, and that bothers me a lot.
But I don't mind spending the money to keep a student in. I mean, it's frightening for a student to say, well, do I go to class and finish this course up? And because, I've got these unexplained bills and so forth. My family member got sick and I have to pay the hospital bill off because most of them are not insured. And, it just pains me to see really excellent students. Now, they're not all that way. Some of them are devious and crooks, believe me. Okay, they just want that money and they take off.
And there's a percentage of those kind of people everywhere.
Right.
And if you're going to be charitable, you're going to have to donate to them as well.
Right. But these poor folks, I run into my former students all the time, and they said, man, you used to encourage us to hang in there. And I'm now a registered nurse, and I'm making good money over here at the hospital, and my family's doing well.
And the difference is minimum wage when you can't pay your tuition bill.
Right.
Or you get through there and you make 20, 25 bucks an hour.
Right.
And you can actually afford to live.
Right.
On minimum wage, you can't afford to live. And we're having to pay for this debt for people that now are in a cycle they can't get out of.
Right.
They have to get the education. You've got to be educated out of poverty.
Right.
You can buy a lotto ticket and your chances aren't too slick on that.
No.
But if you get an education, you can get out of poverty, and it's an annuity that continues to pay you back every year.
Right. Well, I'm quite willing as a taxpayer, ladies and gentlemen, to have the students come in and formulate a plan, and if they pay us $5 a month, until hell freezes over.
That's right.
That's better than paying 30 ahead,
We're paying it otherwise.
That's right.
So
We're
we're
paying
already
one way or
paying
the
it.
other.
Yeah, we're already paying it. Let them get the education.
And the hard cases, go after them with the court system and
Use a lawsuit,
Yeah.
like every other entity in town
Right.
does.
I think Del Mar would be amazed at how many people would come in and say, okay, I'd like to set up this payment plan that they claim they've got and pay it off. Most people are honest.
Extended over 20 years, we don't
I
care.
don't care as long as it's coming in and that student can do well and succeed. That's what it's all about, folks.
If he gets an education, he will pay it back.
Of course, there are a lot of single mothers that we've got over there, which is another
And
tragedy.
they certainly need the education.
That's right.
There's no
They
hope
need to take
otherwise.
care of those children.
Otherwise, we're in another cycle,
Mm-hmm.
another generational cycle.
What you got from the...
What do we have here? We got something?
Okay, yeah, I just want to interject that another thing that I have preached about being president of the Taxpayers Association is I had a little run-in, I'll say, with some of the administration over there, my department chair and my dean, and it was over a privileged individual. And I made too many comments, I guess, and asked too many questions. So then all of a sudden I had a disciplinary action letter presented to me by my department chair, and he claimed, number one, that I had indicated I would not talk to him under any circumstances, which is not true. I said, I will talk to you, but I want a witness present because I do not trust you and I have no faith in you and no respect. And I'll say that on the air, and I stand by what I told him. But anyway, so what he did was he filed that letter with 3 charges against me. Number one, I would not talk to him except in written form. Now, I don't know that that's against the law or board policy at Del Mar anyway, but I did want to clarify that. I said, unless there is a witness present, because I'm tired of having the mistruths spread about me. Okay? I want a witness when I'm told something so I don't have to go through this. And then the second problem that they accused me of was not answering emails when I was on a physics program review committee, which is hogwash, okay? I've explained that before, but that was not true. It was a whole bunch of untruths. Then what they did is they took this privileged faculty member, gave him a majors micro class, microbiology class, out of sequence. He scrambled around, dropped all of his prerequisites for the class, which is chemistry and the cell molecular biology, and he was able to muster, dropping all of those prerequisites, a whopping 14 people out of 24 people. They spent a fortune over there equipping another lab for him, and then they hired somebody to do his labs. He didn't attend some of the labs. He was too busy upstairs writing these little insignificant grants and so forth, but he's totally privileged. So when they wanted to take some of my equipment, after I've been teaching that class for 27 years, and give it to him off sequence, I told him to go to hell. Now, I was hoping that somebody over there had enough backbone to understand what go to hell means, okay? I said go to straight to hell. Maybe it was the straight that got him, okay? So they filed this bogus disciplinary action. Now, I filed 3 Public Information Act requests for information from those people to defend myself and prove my case. They hired a $400, $500 an hour attorney firm out of Austin, Texas, to ask the Attorney General and file for an opinion as to whether they needed to give that information to me or not. The Attorney General turned around and said, give it to him. Now, in the meantime, I was not aware of that, so they went ahead and set up the hearing that I had requested.
That Attorney General opinion came before your hearing.
That's right.
And you did not get the information.
That's right.
At the time of your hearing, you didn't have the information.
That's right. So you know, it was a kangaroo court. So I've got all that documented here, the timelines and so forth. Okay, here's the Attorney General ruling. It came out, I think it was April 30th of this year. Yes, it was April 30th. And then Del Mar College forced me into that hearing on May the 18th. And you attended that one.
Now I want to bring that up. Now I was in attendance, and I took that camera with me.
Yeah.
And Mr. Gordy took his camera.
Right.
Now that was an open meeting.
Yes.
So that would be governed by the Open Meetings Act.
I requested an open meeting.
Yeah. And Mr. August, whatever his name is, Alfonso, said this is an open meeting. And then he said, shut your cameras off, I want to make a statement.
Right.
And his statement was, basically, I'm going to paraphrase it, Del Mar policy overrides the Open Meetings Act and you can't film this.
That's right.
So I had a real problem comprehending how Del Mar internal policy overrides Texas state statute. So I had enough of a problem with it that I wrote the district attorney and said, how does this happen?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that was exactly 30 days ago. It was on the 19th.
Right.
So the 30 days are up. So tomorrow, on Monday the 20th, I'm going to let the district attorney know that my 30 days are up. I've not heard from him, and I have emailed him asking for an update.
Right.
So if he doesn't do anything as of tomorrow, it's going to the Attorney General.
Right.
Because that is a violation of a Texas state statute. Now, it's not only a violation of the statute. August said that it was the policy of the college to violate that statute.
Right. Essentially, yeah.
So my guess is that won't be the last time we see that statute violated.
No, that's it's a violation a day at Del Mar College. And then they hire these outside attorneys. And what bothers me about the whole thing, Ed, well, let me finish up. Okay, so then what happened on the 30th of April, the AG's office had given the bulk of it. I think there were a couple of things they needed to redact. And then they forced the meeting on May the 18th. And then almost immediately after that, Del Mar College, in order to cover their backsides, filed a lawsuit in Travis County, Texas. Okay, it says Del Mar College District versus Ken Paxton, Attorney General. and it's in the 419th Judicial District out of Travis County. That's State District Court, okay? And it says that we want to sue you because you said to give that stuff to him and we don't believe it. We're asking essentially for reconsideration. Now, the Texas Public Information Act states very clearly that once, it states governmental agencies or bodies, I think it says governmental bodies cannot and will not, okay, request a reconsideration of any Attorney General opinion.
Pretty clear in the statute.
So why are they, why are they spending all this money for this? And by the time we have the board attorney, Mr. Augustin Rivera, charging $175 an hour, subcontracting Graves, Daughtry, Moody, and what is it? I think that's Heron and Moody out of Austin, Texas, at $400 and something an hour. We're looking at between $550 and $600 per hour to try to keep me from.
And what is that information they don't want you to have?
Well, for instance, I asked for what is the official Del Mar College definition of insubordination?
So we're going to spend $5,000 or $12,000
Right.
not to give you that definition.
That's right. And other things. I asked.
But these are all things that should be right there
Sure.
in their file.
That's right.
And since it's a college, a publicly financed college,
Mm-hmm.
that information is public.
That's right.
You didn't want any confidential information.
No, I don't want anybody's social security number, telephone number,
So
grandmother's maiden name.
my question is, why in the world are they spending that kind of money?
Something in there is got them really stunned. I think what they did, Ed, this is my speculation, I think they screwed up and they realized that they had put themselves in great jeopardy. And then they keep saying attorney-client privilege with a pending lawsuit. I don't have a lawsuit pending.
Have you hired an attorney?
No.
You can't have a pending lawsuit.
It's anticipated now. Anticipated litigation. Well, I anticipate maybe Mars will fall out of the universe next week. Now, whether that happens or not, I don't know. But
There's a probability. If there are no documents available, they say, hey, no responsive documents. That is not what the Board of Nursing is saying. In fact, what they're saying is, we don't want to release it, or we don't want to release the documents. We want an Attorney General's opinion to make sure that they can force us to release it. We're not going to release it unless we're forced to.
Yeah.
So, there are some documents responsive to our request, and clearly, somebody doesn't want us to have them.
Right. Well, you'd think that if the peer review paperwork was in place, they'd say, here it is.
Well, they have said it's not there.
Yep.
Now, what they don't want to turn over is the disciplinary action taken against these people
Mm-hmm.
who happen to be Del Mar College and Del Mar College employees and students.
Yep.
Interesting. So they don't want to turn over that information. What they're saying basically is something exists,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't want you to have it.
That's right.
So this was hand delivered on July 10th from the Board of Nursing to the new Attorney General,
Mm-hmm.
Ken Paxton.
Paxton. Well, it'd be very interesting to see how that one fleshes out. I've been there, done that on numerous occasions. And we know that the 10 days winds up being 100 days at times.
Or more. and we know that's eventually going to be released.
Right.
But what is it they're hiding? And they are hiding something.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get the Graves Daughtry bills, it normally has something in there that says Board of Nursing, and it's a big figure.
Not anymore.
But they're-
They smoke screen it now, folks. They won't tell us what they're billing for. A problem with Del Mar employee, period. Well, that tells me a whole lot about what we're spending all that money for.
Telephone conversation, $1,700.
Yeah, so, Well, bottom line is, you know, why they keep covering it up.
So let's look at the ethics. I think that's how we started. So if you've got people that at the top of the organization don't tell the truth, if you've got people covering things up, and that is information that's available to the public,
Right.
and they keep fighting us to get it or to not get it. They do not want to release the information that should be publicly available. And quite honestly, I think the way this has worked for the 2 years that I've been working on it is we file the request, we get a letter saying, sometimes it's just a horrendous thing. It says, okay, for $26.7 million, we can get you the information.
Yeah.
So that's a little stall there until Channel 6 comes in and they say we made a mathematical error. So
Yeah, right, big one.
so there's always a delay of some sort, and then they send every one of those PIAs that I've seen go to the attorneys for a ruling. And then the attorneys sometimes say you got to release it, and at other times they file for an opinion from the Attorney General. So it drags on, and then ultimately we get the information.
Yeah.
Every bit of it.
Well, they just haven't learned a lesson that I learned very, very early in life. I was very, very fortunate to have the father and mother that I had, but my dad used to say, you know, if you're tired of the hole you're in, quit digging. So that's my advice to Del Mar College administration and the Board of Regents.
And Doctor, we get, every month we get the board agenda that list out the payments, all payments. It says all payments. I've not verified that, but it says all payments. I don't have a lot of faith in the information generated from the accounting department.
No, I don't think
So it says all payments, and then I think you normally file for the attorney's invoices.
Right.
And so we get that information, and the numbers are horrifying. The numbers are horrifying. And all the property work that was done on the 95 acres by the $400 an hour attorneys out of town, they're in Austin. It looks like our $90 million gets put into a bucket, and they're not acting like it's a fiduciary thing. They're making friends with our money.
What was that old song? My bucket's got a hole in it.
I'm not sure. I don't know that song, but our $90 million is spent to educate 3,000 or less full-time students.
Yeah.
Air condition a bunch of empty classrooms, and pay architects to design 95-acre new campus.
Right.
It
Which I
doesn't.
drove by today.
It doesn't. I bet that's overgrown, but
It's still overgrown. Yeah, it's underwater out there still.
It doesn't make logical sense to me.
No.
The numbers don't make sense. The budget, the way they spent the money, lowering the educational expenditures and increasing the administrative expenditures while the enrollment has declined, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, now there is a push, I understand, I heard this today, that the administration and the Board of Regents are on a quest to have the East Campus renamed after a person and the West Campus, and then go through and name some of these classrooms and buildings after people. So my suggestion is, a good friend of mine was locked out over there at Del Mar College. His name is Dr. Bruce Olson, Colonel, U.S. Army, PhD history, and chair of the Social Sciences Department, and one fine person. I wish he were president over there right now. But I'm going to put in my vote right now that we rename the East Campus to Bruce A. Olson.
I actually like that. I understand the cost of changing all that letterhead is going to be exorbitant, but if Bruce Olson's name's on there,
I'm not through.
oh, I'll vote for it.
And I'm going to put this up for a vote. I want the West Campus named the Dr. Janelle Bennett Campus.
That is poetic. Doctor, I think we're about out of time,
Okay,
and that's a good point to end on.
okay, good, thank you, Ed.